Running a VFX studio is kind of analogous to playing a giant game of 3D Tetris, except with many people's livelihoods on the line. Studio heads have to kind of play this weird game where incoming shows need to be staffed up by departments rolling off of previous shows, while contracting and expanding the team to fit the needs of each show, making sure that there's enough work for everybody, but not too much that the team can't handle it. And in an attempt to further please clients and get shots done on time and on budget, VFX shops usually outsource some of the tasks to other specialist sub-vendors. We'll often see this in prep departments, like with roto and paint work and camera tracking, where a lot of that work ends up going over to India, which leads to another major contributing factor: studio location, specifically because of tax credits. The way those work for the most part is like this. A production company, usually based out of someplace like LA, will set up a corporation in a location with high tax incentives. The client corporation and the vendor in that location sign a working contract which entitles the client corporation to a tax rebate on all of the VFX work that they bring to that location, which in high tax credit areas effectively comes out to something like 40% for the production companies, not the VFX studios. So let's say Marvel brings all of their VFX work to somewhere like Vancouver, they'll end up only having to pay something like 60% of its total cost. So if they spend $1 million on all of the VFX, they get $400,000 back, and it effectively only ends up costing them $600,000, which is a huge incentive to bringing that work over there. However, that also means that the VFX industry as a whole becomes nomadic, chasing subsidies and forcing VFX studios to pop up shops in tax credit-rich locations, while often closing down less performance studios in locations without high tax incentives. That means that artists themselves have to pack up their lives and move to different locations where the bulk of the work has gone, or stay back and compete for what little work is left. Governments are often adding and removing from tax credits, which makes the landscape very unstable and subject to quick movements. Initially, tax incentives are put into place to bring foreign industries over to a country and spur up a self-sustaining economy in that location. But eventually, governments tend to realize that high tax credits are unsustainable and too expensive to keep up. And at that point, it makes more financial sense to either reduce the credit or get rid of it altogether. On top of tax credits, locations like India also have incredibly cheap labor compared to Western markets. To put it into perspective, from what I've gathered, a senior salary in India comes out roughly to 18,000 USD, where you could get something closer to 180,000 for a similar role in the US. Geographically, the entire visual effects industry can roughly be mapped out like this. The majority of the work when it comes to episodic and feature content comes out of LA, so naturally, there are quite a few studios still lingering around that area. Georgia and New York are two other substantial hubs in the US, the latter mainly for advertising work. But the bulk of the work these days gets sent up north to Montreal and Vancouver, Canada. In Europe, London is the main hub for effects work ever since Harry Potter, France is an animation hub, and Germany has quite a bit going on too. Australia has quite a few studios scattered across a few cities, and New Zealand is home to VFX powerhouse Weta Digital. And between their own Bollywood industry, as well as the work fed from elsewhere, a few cities in India have also become massive VFX hubs.